Hello and welcome to the very last episode of NewsDesk for the spring of 2021. I'm Abby Ray. On today's program, we're taking a look back not just at this semester, but at the entire year leading up to one of the most unusual and history-making periods at Kansas Wesleyan University. I think we can all agree that with all the new changes on campus, the stress levels have been through the roof this year. Heidi Jones and Talia Ramirez found out more information on how one of the newest members of the pack has been a huge stress reliever for our students.
Wellness and therapy dogs have become more and more popular on college campuses, and Kansas Wesleyan introduced the newest furry staff member back in January.
That's right. Ellie the wellness dog has become a popular name heard around campus, and Colton Spresser shared with us some more information about her in her first semester here at KW.
Every time I leave her out and I'm gone for 4 minutes, I come back and she's like on the couch just ripping and tearing through my cushion. And I'm like, you gotta be kitten caboodling me. She's right under 6 months. She's a golden doodle, a mini golden doodle. So she's actually filling out pretty well. Anybody that walks by recognizes her at this point and says, oh, hey, Ellie, hi, Ellie. It's never, hey, Colt, how are you? Hey, you quit. We don't do that. Right now, she is our kind of wellness dog. She's currently going through training. We're enrolled in, it's called Mutt School. And so there are 5 courses, 5 grades with Mutt School. And right now, we're nearing the end of grade 1. And so the hope is that she'll pass grade 1 with flying colors to become, more of a campus mental health kind of therapy dog. And so we're doing some training on that, and right now she's just a wellness dog because she's not technically certified or hasn't finished her training yet. But really, the idea with her is to just have her available for students. With COVID happening, people coming from all states across the nation, people are homesick, people miss their dogs at home, people are struggling with school, people are struggling with life in general. We want to make sure that she's on campus as a resource and an opportunity for students to come in and just kind of relax and distress a little bit and, really engage with a furry friend that's always going to be there for him and always loving the pets and being, excited to see them.
For our next segment, we sent JJ Barajas and Nick Cheney out to KWU's most recent physical addition to the campus. The brand new nursing education building was opened for the first time this semester and is one of the most technologically advanced and beautiful buildings on campus.
Nick and I got to see firsthand just how awesome the new nursing building really is. It's packed full of state-of-the-art equipment and it's got students really excited.
Correct. We had the chance to interview Marley Neal, nursing program student, as well as the director of the nursing program, Dr. Janine Houchin.
I think for myself and for my faculty, the building means a warm and welcoming place where our students can come and feel like they've entered into just a wonderful environment that's new and fresh and doesn't feel sterile, doesn't feel like a clinic or a doctor's office. It feels like a place that personally, myself, I wouldn't mind leaving my own student here knowing that they would be in great hands. I think for the students, the amazing features of this building primarily are the things like the brand new technology. We have state-of-the-art simulation technology with the ability to record simulations and play that back and reflect on it, and that just helps our students with their learning to be able to roll the film and see what they did well, and they can give each other feedback. We've got fantastic spaces for them, comfortable here. I think it's just a fresh place. It's their own place. There are student lounge areas. There's a think tank. It's a study space that they can reserve, and they can write on the dry erase boards and on the windows to that space, and they can have a small group study time or their own. And it's their home away from home. They spend a lot of time here. Primarily, it's our performance lab, which is a 4-hospital bed skills lab with mannequins where they learn all the skills they need to be a competent nurse. And then our simulators. We have 6 brand new simulators. They're high fidelity, meaning you can take a pulse, you can listen to lung sounds, bowel sounds. You have a monitor that shows heart rate, blood pressure, And the rooms that they're in look just like a hospital room. So our students feel much more prepared when they go into the hospital. It's not as scary a place because they've seen this room before. They've seen, the bed. They know how the bed works. And so also the ability to record what they're doing. Our faculty sit behind a one-way mirrored glass in a separate room and operate the simulator from there. And believe it or not, it's not as intimidating because they're not standing right there with them. And our students are required to act like a nurse when they're in that room taking care of that mannequin. And again, as I mentioned before, just the ability to review what happened and to reflect on that. And then we have the largest computer lab on campus, 42 computers, a state-of-the-art room. We have all flat screen capability, no PowerPoint projectors. So we feel like we're as technology.
I think it's brought a lot of good opportunity. It gives us a place to study. It gives us a place to meet with our classmates and be in direct contact with our teachers. I feel like it's a really good thing, and we can only go up from here.
Thank you.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more of our special News Desk Year in Review, including a look at some of the brand new athletic teams that have arrived on campus, right after this message.
Are you hungry or thirsty? Or do you just need a little pick-me-up? You're in luck, because Kansas Wesleyan has another choice for you to dine, The Den. Using only the freshest ingredients, and with a variety of options from full meals to snacks and smoothies and more, The Den is the place to enjoy some of the best that KW has to offer, and the staff is always ready to serve you with a smile. Try it today. The Den.
As well as a bunch of other innovations, KW has introduced 2 new athletic teams, the flag football and men's volleyball. Caleb Coleman and Tyler Goodwin have the story.
With the new addition on campus, it was only right to get the inside scoop from the people who made it all happen.
I caught with both the head flag football coach, Mike Flemingletti, and the first team KCAC winner, Marissa Rubino, about their season.
And I asked head volleyball coach Ryan Webb on how he feels about the new spring sport coming next year.
And I can say honestly, one of the biggest things I'm excited about on men's volleyball, bringing it to the school, is just the sport itself. Obviously, there's women's volleyball here. Men's volleyball is a totally different sport. It's a different pace of the game. And I'm excited for the community to see that. I know a lot of people have said they watch the Olympics, they see how fast it is, how fun it is. So to bring it here to the community where people can come in, watch, enjoy, and be a part of that is something I'm really excited about and really looking forward to doing. And once I was named the head coach, I felt like that was a great opportunity to help grow the sport. Men's volleyball doesn't have a lot of opportunities, so to be a part of a program that is expanding that and growing the game for the men's side is just an unbelievable opportunity to have. I've obviously done the women's side of the program, so coming back to the men's side, it's just a great honor to be here, and then to have the great community around it. So that's something that I can really say I appreciate it. And going into the next year, the years we have coming up competing, I'm just excited to get the ball rolling, getting the guys in the court, in the gym, and competing. Obviously, like I said, it's a new sport, so obviously all eyes are on us. So it's going to be good to get in the gym, get practicing, and really show everyone what we're capable of doing on the court this year.
I loved being a part of it, getting to meet new girls from across the world and stuff, or across the country. It was pretty cool, and coming to a place where flag wasn't popular and to be able to make it popular was it was pretty cool. It was an honor to be able to be the first team all KCAC. It was pretty cool, but I wouldn't have been able to be nominated for that if it wasn't for my quarterback, Sabrina Saldate.
I loved every second of it. I mean, becoming the head coach and being the first time this program or sport has ever been done was an absolutely once-in-a-lifetime experience. Having our family experience the growth from the beginning of the season, the beginning of this all happening, and that belief, to then overcoming those challenges that we've all had. And I would recommend it for everyone. The more people who love football, the better the world is. I mean, the games are incredibly intense. I mean, they're a lot of fun. It's been absolutely incredible. I mean, having the highs and lows of a game and working to keep my calm demeanor while making decisions and then celebrating with our team is so much fun. Everyone has their own dance, everyone has their own thing to celebrate, but then, keeping our team focused to go execute and go make those big plays to win has been one of the most fun experiences of my life.
There have been many ups and downs during this school year. One positive, however, is the newly formed partnership between Kansas Wesleyan and the Salina YMCA. Kobe Campbell and Evis Gutierrez have more on the story.
Kansas Wesleyan and the Salina YMCA have come together for a partnership that will allow all Kansas Wesleyan students to have a free Y membership. This membership is not just for the Salina facility, but all Y facilities, allowing students a place to work out, swim, play basketball, and everything else that comes with it.
This is such big news for Kansas Wesleyan students, mostly because a large amount of the students that are enrolled here on campus are athletes. This opportunity gives all the athletes a consistent place they can go to, work out, and prepare for the upcoming sports season.
We've been in partnership with the YMCA for a number of years, working together in different ways to help support both of our organizations. But this past December, our leadership team at Kansas Wesleyan was talking about the needs of our students and how best to serve them, not just during COVID, but also as we move forward. Our enrollment is growing, the number of athletic teams we have is growing, and that's putting a lot of pressures on our recreation facilities, or really on our athletic facilities, and pushing students out of recreation space. So we talked about what we could do about that, and that's when we approached the YMCA to create this new partnership to allow students, faculty, and staff to have full access to the YMCA.
And I think it's a really great investment that the school has done, especially with more students, wanting to get active. So it's a greater alternative to having our school gym and packing that rather than, other students going to the Y and having a bigger facility.
I like them. I mean, I'm going to be here during the summer, so using that to go to like the pool or the sauna or the weight room they have there, and then especially during the summer runs that the local Salina people have here, it's going to be pretty easy to get in and out with the Y membership. I don't have to pay out of my own pocket now, so that helps out a lot.
One of the best perks of this is that it's not just while you're here when it's convenient, but you can take it to any of the 2,600 YMCAs across the country and just show your ID and you go in and use it. You don't have to have a local gym membership when you go back home for the summer or on Christmas break. You can use your YMCA membership. Think about the money you'll save using that.
I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. For me, especially since I live back home in Texas, it's going to be nice to go, use the amenities at the YMCA Center.
I plan on just using it as much as I can whenever I have free time, because it's free memberships throughout the nation, and so we just use it as much as I can when I'm back home.
But not everything new on campus has been good. When we return to NewsDesk Year in Review, we'll revisit one of the most unexpected and unpleasant challenges the Coyotes have faced in almost a century. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for some cool Coyote gear to rock around campus? Then the Yodi store is the place for you. You can get things like mugs for your coffee or pencils in a binder for your schoolwork. It's got what you need. You can get sweaters for those freezing temperatures in the winter and polos for those sunny days in the summer. Oh, and if you wear purple on Fridays, you can get a 10% discount. Backpacks and license plate frames are also sold so you can turn your KW swag on. Oh, and remember, Coyotes,
make sure you take advantage of Purple Friday.
Now we are moving back onto the big deal on campus that has certainly been no secret to staff, faculty, and students: COVID-19. Back in March of 2020, our students moved to exclusively online learning, which was clearly a big challenge our students had to overcome. We asked the kids who stayed on campus and left during this difficult time about their thoughts.
Moving off part wasn't that hard. It was already spring break, so I was already gone. And when they said, spring break was going to last the rest of the semester, basically, I just came back up here, grabbed my stuff, drove home the next day. The online stuff was a little weird, though, because we didn't have it really figured out at the beginning. So none of my teachers really knew what they were doing, and neither did any of us. I felt like it was just really confusing. It's gotten a lot better, the online part of it has, but it wasn't exactly the easiest transition.
So when it first came out, a lot of people were going home, and I decided to stay to do my schoolwork and everything just because the Wi-Fi is better here, and I had like an actual place to live. Of course, many things changed while I was here, such as like not being able to go into the cafeteria and stuff like that, but that was pretty much reason why I stayed here.
My experience moving off of campus in April when we did it, it was a scary time at that point. We didn't really have any information, and things were kind of pretty hectic. There were talks of closing down like state borders, and I had to drive home to Virginia. So it was hectic, but I think the school handled it as best that they could. Um, it was definitely stressful times, but I think allowing us to stay on campus as long as we needed to until we had to go home was really nice. But definitely being back home was difficult. Fully online classes were really hard, and I don't really learn in that way. It's not the best way for me to learn, so that was really difficult to kind of adapt to. And then being locked in my house the entire time during the pandemic was really difficult on like mental health. But I survived. I'm here. It wasn't too bad.
I remember it was very stressful, especially because we didn't really know what COVID-19 was, and we didn't really know what was happening because the school wasn't very informative when it first started, and all we knew was that we just had to pack up our things and leave. And I actually left all my stuff here, went home until about April, and then I came back and packed up all my stuff and left. And so it was just a stressful time for sure.
Yeah, so they told everyone that we could go home if we wanted, but just not knowing what COVID really was and all that type of stuff, it was kind of scary. And being from Texas, it's a pretty big state, and from what I had heard, it was kind of like the hot spot, so it just seemed smarter to stay here where it didn't really seem like there were a lot of cases. And I was still kind of in training even though we weren't really in season anymore, so I was still able to run every day with my roommate and my coach, and it kind of made more sense for me to stay here because I feel like if I was at home, I wasn't going to be motivated to finish my schoolwork or go out and run every day like the way I was. So I think if anything, it was a little bit more beneficial to me to stay here than it was to go home.
COVID-19 didn't end after March of 2020, though, but we were able to persevere. The Coyotes are a strong breed, and we pushed past these difficulties to have a successful year. However, there were some pretty big changes that happened on campus as a result of COVID and precautions used to protect students. We spoke to some students and staff about their thoughts on the differences happening on campus.
I feel like they were all good. So in the beginning, the cafeteria was completely closed altogether, and we had to take our food outside. Now they're sitting like 2 people to a table, and I think that it's good just to have precautions just in case.
I think that the precautions are probably explicit enough, and we get enough emails that outline directly what we can and cannot do and how that's helping stop the spread of COVID. But I do think enforcement's a bit lackluster, and it also puts professors in a kind of weird position because they have to take charge in enforcing it. And if students don't listen, then it's not a great distribution of power, and they don't really have much to do. So it's kind of up to student discretion.
I think it's the kind of thing that someone should make a case study on. I don't know too much about the various institutions across the country, but I know that I can't think of, in most of my peers, I think were teaching online over the course of last year, and especially in the fall semester. And so the fact that Wesleyan was able to move back on campus with students in dorms, as well as provide a good atmosphere as far as I know in terms of providing food, still bring back debate, have that happening online, still have masked up athletics happening, and then games like volleyball, football, track is able to have meets. Our flag football team that was created this year is able to have games. I think everything was handled pretty well by Wesleyan, and I think it's the kind of thing that case study people from an academic and science standpoint need to study, because I know that comparatively other similarly sized colleges were in scenarios where they're having really big outbreaks of COVID-19. And if we ever had an outbreak like that, as far as I know, it was limited to a team, and then they quarantined the team and the secondhand exposure people really well. And we've had pretty low cases throughout the course of the year. And there was definitely a month-long period where we had no people quarantined at all.
I think it doesn't feel too drastic. I mean, the mask wearing, of course, and the separation in classes. But granted, I feel like we would all kind of be sitting the same way as normal if it was a normal time, the way I currently am in classes. The masks actually don't bother me as much. I mean, granted, it bothers me when I finish practice and I have to put it back on, and I'm all hot and sweaty, and it just feels like all that air is being trapped inside. But other than that, I don't mind it at all. If anything, like I feel like it just makes you more aware of like what you're touching and like who you're being around. It just makes you feel more safe, like knowing all these precautions are in place.
I think definitely the changes this year have been a little rough, just because we're still adapting and still trying to figure out what's really going on, what's really happening, and especially with like the mask wearing and all of those things, it's just difficult and frustrating, and we all get tense. But I think the schools handled it pretty well because of what we're given. I mean, it's not an everyday situation.
I don't know, I guess. They're not, like, that intrusive. Like, just wear a mask when you're at class or in, like, a public place here on campus. It's not really that big of a deal.
And finally, we can't discuss COVID-19 without also talking about the amazing medical innovations that have occurred since the beginning of the pandemic. Most notably, the 3 vaccinations against the coronavirus that are now widely available for all to take. NewsDesk was curious about what students and staff thought about the vaccination process, but more specifically, if they'd heard any crazy conspiracy theories.
Not from like actual people, maybe like on the internet, but those are unverified things. Like I've not heard conversations in Salina or on campus where people were refuting the vaccine.
A friend of mine said that a lady at her work says that her eye has been twitching because other people have been getting it and her immune system's reacting to that.
Well, I have heard a couple of conspiracy theories. One about, the government putting little nanochips inside them to where it can track a lot of humans and, all the citizens, where they're going and stuff. Another crazy one that my friend told me, how they have deceased fetuses in the vaccine to help combat the disease. Kind of crazy stuff, but there's probably a lot of other conspiracy theories as well when it comes to the vaccine, but you need a little bit of conspiracy theories to get your mind jogging. So
Yeah, I've heard a few crazy conspiracy theories. I think the biggest one was sterilization. If you got the vaccine, you'd be sterilized, and I mean, that's just ludicrous. If you do any type of actual research into this, you know that that's false, and it's just kind of just propaganda being spread around by people that are just scared or just trying to form some weird agenda. I'm not really sure. I don't even understand. It doesn't make any sense how a vaccine would sterilize you. If you understand how vaccines work and understand the science behind it, like that's just really ignorant.
I mean, the microchip stuff that not everybody, a bunch of small minority of insane people talk about, but I've heard the microchip one. I've heard that it'll give you COVID, which isn't true. I've heard some weird stuff.
Just that there are microchips in them. I don't understand how microchips can be in the vaccine. I mean, that's not really a personal thing because I know a bunch of people believe that also, but I don't understand how a microchip can fit into a vaccine that has to stay at a certain temperature. I don't understand how that little thing can fall out of the needle or something. I mean, if they're worried about tracking it, they should be worried about their phones or their laptops and everything. So there's bigger worries about tracking than a vaccine that's going to help save your life.
Well, I mean, obviously there was the Johnson & Johnson thing when a statistically insignificant amount of people had some blood clots happen, which isn't to underscore the intensity of that on them. And it's good that the CDC or whoever was in control pulled the J&J vaccine for a little bit, but Moderna and Pfizer have been fine. I know that people talked about how it affects women's menstrual cycles, stuff like that. And then I think that people have tried to say that getting the vaccine leads to giving off some kind of secondhand exposure to people that have been not vaccinated that are around you post-vaccine. And I think a lot of it is just not founded in science at all. And it's weird to me that type of thing happens because the vaccine arriving literally basically a year after this started, to me is kind of slow, but I'm glad that it has happened. I'm glad that people are getting vaccinated.
Now we are going to a live interview with Tyler Goodwin and Janine Houchin to ask about COVID-19, the vaccination process, and more.
Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your schedule. But after hearing all of these crazy conspiracy theories, what would you say to those who are skeptical about getting the vaccination?
It's a great question, and one that I think we've answered a lot in the nursing field. My 2 major messages would be: do your research. Don't listen to rumor, conjecture. Don't rely on social media. And also consider the advantages and also possibly disadvantages. You need to make a decision for yourself. There are great reputable sources out there that can provide you with wonderful evidence-based information, such as the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration. And those are two agencies that are really responsible for ensuring the safety of those things like vaccinations. I think it's important to keep in mind that the vaccinations were rolled out under an emergency use authorization, which the FDA had to weigh in. And the FDA had to determine that there were more risks, or there were fewer risks than there were benefits. And that's just a good safety measure that we can all rely on, that they're not going to let something out there that's going to harm the public. I think it's really important that you listen to the information and that you do your own research and find your own answers. Lots of rumors, lots of things flying around that, sometimes it's easy to latch onto, especially through social media. I think, too, the benefits are really important to think about. A lot of people forget that if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine if you're exposed, unless you become symptomatic. You also can travel. You're not restricted if you're fully vaccinated, unless you become symptomatic. So those are just important things to consider.
And honestly, COVID has been pretty scary. Did any of your students question whether or not they wanted to continue on this career path because they could be potentially exposed a lot to COVID?
We had lots of conversations. We had to think about the safety of our students. So we worked with our clinical sites, the hospital mainly here in Salina, and talked about how we could keep our students as safe as humanly possible. They were required to have the full PPEs, that N95 masks, and they weren't allowed to take care of COVID patients. So I think that helped with some of the stress, but obviously they were going through all the stress that you heard, the interviews of your students that we just listened to. They had the same big feelings, and honestly, not a single student ever came to us and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I think it helped also that our faculty, many of our faculty have a unique perspective in that many of us, lived through the AIDS crisis many years ago. So we were able to talk with them about the cares and concerns of dealing with patients with this degree of infectious disease, but also conversations in which we reminded them of the inherent risk of being a nurse. We're exposed to disease every day. And so they learned how to take care of themselves and how to protect themselves, and that helped to allay a lot of their fears.
And then personally, how did COVID affect you and your family? Like, what precautions did you take, especially at the beginning of the pandemic?
We had a lot of concerns. I have 4 grown children. My youngest daughter is a nurse at Stormont Vale, and she became the face of the COVID nurse at Stormont. So obviously I was worried for her sake, but I was really impressed with the care that was taken to protect her. And she did an amazing job. She became really the face of the COVID nurse. She was on the national news talking about the stress, of caring for patients. And personally, it just a lot of worry and concern like everybody else had, but we took precautions. We shut down when everything shut down. Personally, loved working from home, got a lot done. And just limited our contact until we were all fully vaccinated. Mask wearing, definitely, we embraced that. There's no harm done in wearing a mask to protect yourself. And we got through it. Obviously concerns about protecting our older adult family members, and limited our exposure to them, which was sad, but it was worthwhile.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we have for you today and for the school year. Stay safe this summer, get vaccinated, and get ready for the next semester, because we are all sure here at the Communications Department that it only goes up from here. Have a wonderful week. I'm Abby Ray.